Good to see all of you this morning. I guess I see food over there, and I also see a crowd. You think they're related? I think so. If you've tasted the food, I appreciate Derek and Denise coming all the way from Texas, from Jeff's congregation, so they had to come and find out what a real Church of God looks like. So I don't know if he's watching this or not, but I'll hear from him if it is. So I do want to welcome all those who are joining us on the webcast or in person today. We want to welcome you. And I just have a few announcements before I jump into my message, since we do not have special music today. Unless somebody wants to jump up and sing a cappella. Oh, is that Molly? I think she raised. No, okay. All right, going to give you a chance. So let me mention that we have youth class today during my sermon, so you can follow your instructors out, so you won't have to listen to me, and you'll have your own message there. And also October the 26th, which is the Sabbath after the eighth day or the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is on a Thursday, which means a lot of you may not be back, may take that time. So I'd like to ask you whether we are going to have services. Not my call, since I won't be here, but I want to see how many people will be back for that service. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not very many. Okay, I'll make that announcement. Guess I got my message clear there. So I appreciate that. Next Sabbath, the 28th, we're going to have a potluck and a Bible study. I will finish the last 3 seals. I will start on the first 4 today. During our Bible study, the last 3 seals won't take long, but then I'll be talking about a timeline that you will hear as I go into my message today, and we want to make that very interactive, so I have that for you. October the 3rd, as you know, which is Thursday, the Feast of Trumpets. Regular service is at 10:30. So with that, all the youth can get out of the room and go have your own class. You do have snacks and various things besides all the food that's going to have afterwards. So I think they always enjoy their class. So we'll clear them out, and I'll get my sermon ready. All right, turn the remote on. Derek, I'm sure you found it a lot easier with them handling things instead of the clicker. Found that out. I have a top-notch crew back there. They make you look good. So make sure that's off. And let's get started. Let me turn over here to my chapter. The title of today's sermon is Revelation 6. Last week we went into Revelation 5. Does anybody remember? Was anybody still awake? Yes, I got a few hands, so this is worth covering today as we're working our way through various parts of Revelation as we enter the fall holy day season. Opening the scroll. Last week I showed you the scroll. This is not that scroll. This is like that scroll. So let's go back to a couple verses, look at this, and then we'll jump on. Go with me, if you will, to Revelation 5, where we were last week. I'll read Revelation 5 and verse 1 from New King James Version. It says, "And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back and sealed with 7 seals." 7 seals. And then let's go down to verse 5. It says, as it said earlier, no one was able to open the scroll or worthy to open it. But in verse 5 it says, "But one of the elders said to me, 'Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and its 7 seals.'" As I showed, some of those words were not in the original text, so I'm reading today what's in the original Greek, so that doesn't throw you. So, as we know, Jesus Christ came forward took the scroll from his father's hand, and they all proclaimed him to be worthy to loosen the scroll. So he unwraps the wrapping of the scroll. And what did it say? How many seals were on it? Okay, what were seals at that time? They didn't have super glue. Wax most of the time. And they would have them put an imprint to seal that. Well, how do you do that? Because I once had 7 seals on here, but that doesn't work that way. So we're going to look kind of today at how it was actually done, how Christ was standing in front of the elders. He was standing in front of the 4 seraphims. And, of course, before the throne of God. Because this was so important to John, he wept because nobody was going to be opening it. Would we do that? Let's go. Let's go to chapter 6 then, since we finished 5 last week. Verse 6. It says, "Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of these 7 seals." Is that what it says? That's what the Greek says. Not one of the 7 seals. Telling us there were 7 seals on this scroll. "And I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, 'Come and see!'" Don't know how much thunder that is. But thunder is generally loud. So this was loud. All those angels that we looked at last week that were hanging around, 10,000 times 10,000, they all heard. Let's go and look. Because the Lamb of God is opening this seal. Isn't that interesting? It is to me. That one of the seraphim, those 4 seraphims that we read about earlier, those angels, living creatures as they called them, they're announcing this 4. Personally, each one has an announcement to make at the throne of God. So let's go and see. As he said, see. Verse 2. "And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow." Like army bow. Bow and arrow. "And a crown was given to him," meaning he had authority. "And he went out conquering and to conquer." Now, when I first came here 13 years ago, in fact, Derek and Denise were here. How many people were here 13 years ago when I showed up? Almost 13 years ago. Okay. See, most of them, I ran off most of the people then. But I actually gave something like this. And a man came to me afterwards, because I was explaining these seals, these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, is what some mention. He said, "You're wrong about your teaching." I said, "Okay, show me where I'm wrong." He said, "That first horse, that white horse, that was religion, and it's good religion." I said, "Really? It's not religious deception?" "No, not at all." And I said, "So we have 4 horses, and 3 of them are bad riders, but this one's a good one?" "Well, I don't know." Well, he's not here today. As a matter of fact, I don't think he came back a week or 2. He was looking at this and trying to work his own understanding into this. This scroll opens as Christ was reading that. What was in there? What he could see. And it was a white horse. But it was not a good writer. And so you would go, well, how do you know that? How do you know? When I don't understand something from Scripture, I go to the rest of the Bible. So I'm going to ask you today, if I could get my two models in the front row here to come and hand this out. It's a whole lot better looking at you than looking at these boys or men here, so they'll enjoy having you hand this out, if you don't mind. You two ladies will do that. One to everyone, just bring me back up what you do not give. Okay? Thank you. You can take one row and one side and then take the other. I want you to look at this because I was not the originator of this. Way back 20 years ago, someone started one, and I then took the one that a friend of mine had made and then put some other understanding in it. And with Ampy's help, anybody remember Ampy Villanueva? Yes, Ampara. She helped put this together with me because you really need to have this to understand where we're going. Because basically you can look at Revelation and go, what? And that's how most people look at it. I put it up here. Thank you, Orwin, for doing that, even though I got it to you late. Because I want the people out there. Because to understand the book of Revelation, to understand everything about the fall holy days and what our future, what the destiny of this world is, you must have something to help you guide your path through this. And this is the best I have ever seen. I've seen others. But to me, I can thoroughly understand this, and I'm going to ask you, since we will have an interactive Bible study next week, and we're going to cover the 3 last seals, and we're going to cover this. I'd like you to look at this. I'd like you to read it. I'd like you to find a problem with it. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'd like you to find something that's wrong with it, if you can. Or maybe there's an improvement to this. Because it is all about understanding. That's why we're here. That's why we read God's book, as Derek brought out about understanding. Do we understand? And if you look at that very first seal, because that's what he opened, you see Revelation 6 and verse 2. But you can understand it by reading Matthew 24 and verse 5. He said, many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, or I am of the Christ. It's a religious deception. That's why he said, beware, watch, look, because these 4 horsemen, as they're called, they're going to ride. And they have started riding from Christ's time, and they're going to ride all the way to Christ's return. But the intensity in which they ride, the intensity in which they bring things to this earth is going to be so much greater the closer we get to Christ's return. Has there always been some religious deception? Yes. Do we have it now? Are we going to have it even more? Yes. We're going to have it. That's why we have to watch of the intensity. And that's why these seals are so important. And these horsemen so important. Because the rider riding on a white horse, he's like, I'm a good guy. Believe me. Many will come in my name. That's Jesus Christ telling. They're going to come in my name. I'm a Christian. I may not act like it. I'm a Christian. I may not speak that much from the Bible. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christ-like person. Really? That's for us to know. That's so we won't be deceived. We just need to know how Christ lived, what he said, what he taught. And say, that didn't line up with that guy. That's why the first seal was opened. And that's why we need to not be deceived. Beware of the horse. Something that looks good on the outside may not be on the outside. Now, so we saw the first horse, white, but then there's another seal because Christ opens this. There's 7, right? So he opens the second seal. Let's go and see what he says as he's reading this. In verse 3, chapter 6, when he, who? Who's talking about? When he opened. Who opened? Very good. Becky's ahead of everybody today. When he opened the second seal, I heard who is it? Second living creature. There's 4 of them up there, and each one is proclaiming this. He didn't pick just any angel to it. This is a seraphim saying this. They were at the throne of God. And the second living creature saying, come. Come. And see is not in there. It's not in the original. Come. So he's asking John, come over here. Let's look. Let's look. And in verse 4, and another horse, fiery red, went out. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth. Has that happened in the last 2,000 years? Will it continue? So much so that Jesus Christ said, unless he does return, there will be no flesh alive on this earth. His words, not mine. It's going to get so bad that unless he does return, human life is gone. Pretty important saying? I think so. He writes it down here. To take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a sword. Given to him a sword. So what's he talking about? War. War. The sword at that time was a sign of war. That's what they used. You know, it's interesting that they can go back in history and go back 3,400 years of documented history. Oh, they may find something in 4,000 years, but of all that they can line up, historical scrolls, cuneiform tablets, all these various things, they can go back and have the history for the last 3,400 years. And they have found in the last 3,400 years, there have been 268 years of peace. That means the last 3,400 years, people were fighting, killing wars, except for 268 years. That's 7% of the time there was peace. Which means what? 93% of the time there's war. How about us today? 1945, the end of World War II. Since the end of World War II, which they have really good records for, up to today. What's the date today? September 21st, 2024. Up to today. That's a long time. Anybody born in 1945? Oh, we can just see how old you are. But it's been a long time. Because I was born in 59 and I'm old. So you can see how that goes back. In that time, there have been exactly, by historians, 26 days of peace on earth. 26 days since 1945. Peace on earth. Does anybody think it's going to get any better? I don't. It's amazing because on planet Earth today, since the atomic bomb was dropped, now they have the hydrogen bomb, which is more powerful. It doesn't spread out any further when it's dropped. It just desecrates everything in its path. Nothing is left. They debate whether it was 1948 or 1950 when they tested the hydrogen bomb, the full test of hydrogen bomb. But you know, it's interesting that it's the only thing left that has not been used. Every type of warfare that's been created in man's time he's used. Except that one. You think man's not going to use it? You think some crazy man is not going to be out there and decide to use it? War, the second seal. It is going to intensify before Christ's return, as I mentioned before, that it is going to be so great, this war. It's a world war as no one has ever seen before, where the whole world will be affected. That horseman is riding. Just look at it today. Think about it. Middle East, Ukraine. What's going on? Nothing compared to what's going to happen. Because the horseman is riding. But that intensification is nothing the world has ever or will ever see. So then we come to verse 5. It says the third seal. And when he had opened the third seal, another seal, the third living creature said, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales. You know what scales are? You know, yes, they weigh, they balance. Okay. At that time, they had scales because that is how you bought and sold things. You would weigh it. And that's how all the markets were. Well, so what's this rider having scales in his hand for? And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius." A denarius was, at the time, the average daily wage of a worker. Today, the average daily wage is somewhere between $150 and $200 a day, if you take everybody in the United States. Imagine buying a quart. We know what a quart is. You just have quart jars. For a day's wage, that's all you got. Because it's going to become so expensive. And why? Because the third seal is famine. There's going to be a famine. Always has been. People who are starving. But it's going to be so widespread, so large, so intense, that even enough to eat for your family for a day is going to cost a day's wage. You see the scale now? What if you don't have the money? What happens when you run out of the money? If you have no job and food is so scarce, you're going to starve to death. It's famine. That is what's being announced. And we see it in other countries. But we don't see it here. Really? Well, there's some people hungry here. Well, this week I drove down Oakland Boulevard, so I was taking something to ship to Guyana. And there was a guy, and the first thing I picked up when I looked at him was his sign. And he said, and it said, "I need food." And he was standing on the corner. And that's the first thing caught my eye. And then I panned out. And it was a guy that was probably 100 pounds overweight. Had a belly out to here. Made me feel good about mine. But here, he said, "I need food." I wanted to take a picture because I wanted it up here. Though he didn't need food. He needed less food. This is America. But we're about to see America, where people who are hungry are skin and bones. And you're praying for food. A quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. You work a whole day just to eat. Nothing else. There's nothing else left. That won't be there. Okay? See back on that table? That's wonderful food that our people, our brethren cook there, and we have it every week. It's not going to be there. Enjoy the blessings. Be thankful for the blessings that we have here. And then it says, do not harm the oil or the wine. Why? Why? Well, the oil is the olive trees, and the oil was so important then. You could get nutrition. It was how they would light fires. It was how everything was baked and made. So he said, don't harm that because people are not going to, they really need that. And then it said, what? And wine. Why? Why the wine? Because the Middle East then, and it's going to be that way too, you remember, why is there a famine? Anybody know? Besides God said there will be a famine. The 2 witnesses, you remember what they do? When they come on the scene, they're for 3.5 years, they're going to stop all rain. There will be no rain on the entire earth for 3.5 years. Wrap that around your head. Well, we have some water that's stored over here. How long is that going to last? The rivers, the streams, how long is that going to last? Imagine. Oh, well, I bought some bottled water. Well, yeah. How long is that going to last? So you see why there's a famine, why there's no food? And there's not going to be any water. There will be wine. Wine has alcohol, which preserves, which can stay where water would go bad. It's had to be. They had to live off wine. In the Middle East, they've had to live off of it at times because it's the only thing that won't make them sick. It's coming again. So George, you can go and buy some more wine. We can all run over to George's house at that time, I guess. So we have something to drink. But look at this. I mean, it is a serious, serious problem. Go down to verse 7. Verse 7. And he opened the 4th seal. So he comes down, opens that seal. And it's the 4th living creature. I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was death. And Hades, or the grave, followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth. 25%. Right now we have 8 billion people. 2 billion is going to die. Right start before God opens up the wrath, his wrath. A quarter of all people. We're given over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, which we saw. These 4 horsemen. That was war. To kill with the sword, with hunger. That's the famine. That's the other horse. With death, which is this one, which is pestilence. Because what happens? Disease. It's going to happen. When you have all these things, you do not have water to clean things. You do not have clean water to drink. You're going to have bacteria. You're going to have viruses. We're going to think COVID was a piece of cake when this is done. And then it says something with death, and by the last it said, by the beasts of the earth. How does that happen? Has that happened yet? No, it's going to happen. Why would the beasts of the earth, why so many people are going to be killed by the beasts of the earth? They're hungry. They don't have water. They don't have food, so they're going to kill. Derek had a picture of that lion. Imagine that. You know, I'm kind of like, if I got to be one of these, give me the sword. Don't let me be eaten by something. I just don't want to be somebody's dinner. I mean, I've seen movies, and that's enough for me. So this is a warning. They knew what it was to be beast. Imagine this happening, brethren. The 4 horsemen. That's why I want you to read this. Not to put fear. This isn't a fear sermon. You only have reason to be fearful if you're in here by mistake. But God said, his people, they don't live by fear. I did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. This is for us to have, for us to know, so that we can understand. This is, Somebody goes, what's going on? This. And we're going to go through the rest of this before you go off to the Feast of Tabernacles, so that you'll know. So as I wrap this up, the first 4 seals, the 4 horsemen, they will continue to ride and intensify, as I said. We're going to have a front row seat. Are you ready for it? The only salvation comes from up above. There's no president that's going to be elected. There's no king. There's no ruler that's going to save this world. There's just the King of Kings. I think most of you know that. Let's hold on to that. Let's hold on to this truth that's been given to us. Because most people will say the book of Revelation, that's a crazy old man on an island. Crazy like a fox, you might say. He gave us this incredible warning. Christ has given us this warning. The 7 seals. Next week in Bible study, we'll go through the final 3, and then I want to discuss this. Because I want to hear from you. Because the better we are prepared, the better our lives will be. And we can have peace even in a time of tribulation. And we'll talk about that next time.